Hey, welcome everyone to the Converge Church Planting webinar. My name is Lee Stevenson, and I get the privilege of serving with Converge as the Executive Director of Church Planting. And we're thankful that you're taking the time to join us as we talk about the importance and how to create a great church website today. As we kind of get ready to start, join me in just a quick word of prayer. God, thank you so much for the day and your goodness to us, and the opportunity for us to continue to grow in wisdom and understanding of how to connect with the world around us, and using media and digital platforms to do that. I pray that you guide our time, and Lord, may we honor you in what we do and say. In your name, amen. Before I get to the point of introducing the one who's going to guide us through our conversation today, I just want to remind everybody, if this is your first time, we're going to be doing a Q&A following the presentation, and you feel free to be able to submit your questions by looking down at the bottom of your link down there. Hit the Q&A button, and you can submit your questions. And then when we get to the end of the presentation, we'll take time for the remaining part of the time to dialogue through those questions. It is our privilege and my joy to introduce to everyone today Dustin Stearman. Dustin is the founder and owner of Church Plant Media, and is bringing his expertise to us and guiding us to this conversation of what is needed to create a great church website. So thanks for being with us, Dustin.
Yes, thank you, Lee. I appreciate you guys having me on for a little bit.
Absolutely. Well, the floor is yours, my man.
All right, sounds good. Well, hello, everyone. Really glad to be here. My name is Dustin Stearman, as Lee said, and I am the founder of Church Plant Media. We build websites for churches and Christian ministries, and have done so for quite some time, about 20 years or so. So my goal is to take a few minutes today and discuss some strategies and tools that each of you can use on your church's website, whether it's a site that is well established, or you're a brand new church plant, maybe in the pre-launch stage even, and you're just starting out. So grateful to Lee and Ryan from Converge for hosting the webinar, and I'm grateful to all of you for taking a little bit of time out of your day to attend. So let's go ahead and get started. I'll tell you just a tad bit about us, and then we'll get into the fun stuff. Church Plant Media has helped thousands of people communicate the gospel online and reach their community. And I'm very fortunate to work with a great team. They're the ones who make everything happen behind the scenes, and many of them also volunteer in their local church. And as you can see, our leaders have many years of experience, and that's helped guide our entire team as we strive to do what we set out to do every day, and that's to expand the reach of the gospel via the internet. So enough about us. Let's get on to the good stuff. So I'll be sharing quite a few resources and links through the webinar today. I will be providing all of those to Converge for them to send to you via email. So don't feel like you have to take super detailed notes, as everything I reference will be sent to you, and I'll also post it online so you can have easy access there as well. Okay, so it's a given that your church needs a website. We all know that. That's why you're here today. But just having the website is not enough. You actually need to give people a reason to visit your site, and you need to give them reasons to return regularly. And we found there's kind of 5 ways that you can do that and build trust with your site visitors. And you do that by writing quality content. That is huge. Number one, quality content. You want your website to make a good first impression. You want the website to be mobile friendly, meaning it works on all devices. You want it to load quickly, and you want it to be secure, which again will help build trust in the eyes and the minds of your visitors. So let's take a look at each one of these 5 points in detail. So focal point number 1 is to create quality content. As we know, content is king, and it is really king on your website. That is what people are coming to consume, and that's what Google likes. And we want to keep Google happy. So to create good quality content, the best thing you can do is put yourself in the shoes of the people coming to your website. I think one area where some churches may misstep is they build everything from their perspective, which is okay in some areas. But really, the number one thing you want to do is put yourself in the shoes of the people that are coming to this site, and what questions are they asking? if you're in their shoes, you're looking for a new church, or maybe you attend your church, what are you going to be looking for? And these are the things that you need to provide. So the people coming to your site, they will consist of both your current congregation, people who have been attending weekly, regularly, and it's also going to be your neighbors that haven't been to church in 20 years and may be searching. So some will be Christians and others will not be Christians. And so what you want to do is craft your content in such a way that you can reach them and, again, answer those questions that they're asking. So based on approximately 20 years of conversations with churches, along with some detailed analytics data that we've collected, we've put together a short list of content that people are typically looking for when they visit your site. Now, this list obviously is not exhaustive, but it's a really good place to start, and we do recommend you have this information at a minimum as you craft your online presence. So the first item, top left, the welcome, what to expect section. Down beneath that would be a gospel presentation, beliefs, mission, core values. Up at the top right would be the pastoral team, and then sermons and all the media and good stuff down there at the bottom right. So let's break down each one of these a little bit more. So under the welcome and what to expect section. Now, on some church websites, these will often be separate pages based on the quantity of content that they have. But if you don't have a ton of content yet for this section, you can easily combine this on one page. And when someone decides to visit your church, they're probably already a little bit anxious anyway. Will they know what to do? Will they know where to go? Will they look out of place, etc.? And the church website can take the edge off that anxiety by providing a few key pieces of information. We put that there on the screen for you. Simple things like parking or style of dress, worship style, children's programming. Where do I take my kids when I come in? Do I check them in? Do I drop them off? Where will they go, etc.? Order of service, things like that. And if I can make one recommendation here, it's to be yourself. What you don't want to do is create an impression on your website that is different from what they'll experience in person. We've seen that happen with many church websites. They'll create a certain aesthetic or culture kind of on their website, and then when somebody shows up in person, it's a complete disconnect. So make sure that what you're putting out there online is going to complement what they will experience in person. All right, let's jump down to the next section. I love this section. The gospel presentation, the beliefs, maybe some doctrinal values or doctrinal statements, mission, core values, all that fun stuff. And we're lumping those together for purposes of this presentation. But some churches, like the what to expect area above, will also break them down into their own pages. And the bottom line is that truth matters, especially nowadays. People want to know what your church believes. They want a gospel presentation. They want to learn more about Jesus. They want to, they're looking for something. And in many ways, this section of your website can point them to Christ and kind of get them going in that next step. And so we recommend that you get as detailed as you feel is necessary. Some churches get very detailed and they have 5 or 6 pages here with dozens of scripture references, and that is great. Others may tone it down a little bit and just go with some high level things, and that's okay as well. So the main thing is that you do what you feel is necessary and appropriate for your church and for people that are visiting. Pastoral team. This content is helpful, particularly for visitors. They need to have a familiar face or two that they recognize when they visit. And at a minimum, each pastor should have a headshot and a short bio. And what this does is it just helps them, even if they don't necessarily meet the pastor on Sunday or on Saturday when they visit, at least they will recognize who it is. So when the pastor gets up and begins speaking, they realize, okay, this is the person I saw on the website, and they make that connection. So it's just kind of answering those questions, maybe that they didn't even know that they had. Sermons. This is one of my favorite parts of what we do. Audio, putting the gospel online, audio, video, notes, giving the ability for people to find this good news as easily as possible. So we recommend that you put as much detail online as you can for each sermon. Sermon audio should be available at a minimum, and that is both an audio file that plays and then one that downloads as well, that they can download to their computer for later listening or their device. We also recommend sermon video and notes if you can. And when it comes to notes, ideally you'll want to include a downloadable PDF document for printing, and then also a transcript of those sermon notes on the website, on the actual sermon detail page. And that's a simple copy and paste process. Just copy it from the document, paste it into the website. That will help Google as far as them seeing you as an authority on certain topics. So the more information you can put up, the better. And also recommend that you make it easy for people to locate a specific sermon. A lot of church websites, when you go to the sermons page, it's just a never-ending scrollable list of sermons. And the only, really the only thing you can do is just scroll until you see either a title or, maybe a scripture reference that makes sense. But it's not easy to drill down and find very specific things. And so something that we do by default on all of our websites is we give the churches, or we give the website the ability for people to categorize their sermons by book of the Bible, by category, by sermon series, by date, by speaker. And so somebody can come to the website and say, I want to see everything on the Hebrews series that we just did last year. Say it's a 12-week series, and I just want to go through those again. So you go to series, you click on Hebrews, and boom, everything pops up right there, and you're not having to scroll back 2 or 3 years to find where that content is. And a helpful hint here: a lot of people will submit their podcasts to iTunes, and that's pretty clear. Most churches will do that, but a lot neglect to put the actual raw RSS or XML feed on the website as well. And that's helpful for podcast subscribers who don't use iTunes. They use a different podcatcher. So be sure to do that. If you don't know how to do that, just ask the company or your developer, your web developer that's provided your website, and they should be able to provide that content for you. Okay, focal point number 1, continued. There's a few things that people forget. Surprisingly, they're pretty basic items, but I saw this the other day on a church website. We were looking for contact information and could not find where they were located, could not find what state they were in, anything like that. So, it's just again, get in the minds of the people that are searching your website and provide that information. So be sure to include these basic things as well. So location is key. Your address, your directions, your map. An embeddable Google map is helpful. So when they're driving to church the day of the service, they'll be able to pull it up online and tap on the map and get directions directly from Google. So definitely recommend that. Also, don't forget contact information, like a phone or a phone number, obviously in a contact form. You may want to avoid putting an email address on there, because if that link is clicked, what that's going to do is activate that computer. So if a website visitor comes to your site, they click on an email, it's going to activate their email program. But if they don't have an email program actually set up and ready to go, let's say they use Gmail or a full webmail system, then it's going to throw some sort of program error. So kind of a better way to do that would be to set up a contact form. People can ask any questions. They can put in their contact information if you wish to collect it, and then that will come to you via email, and they don't have to worry about having the right programs or apps installed on their computer. The last thing is photo galleries. Photo galleries are a nice way to give visitors a glimpse into the life of your church, to see church activities, service trips, missions trips, etc. It does show that your church is full of real people and that things are happening. And, for a lot of people, that's going to be an attraction to get involved. A lot of people are looking for that connection. So be sure to throw up a few photo galleries. It doesn't have to be anything detailed. 10 to 15 pictures per gallery or per event will typically suffice. So it's important. I do need to mention this. It is important that everything on your website is original to you. And we have seen instances where churches will borrow, and I put that word in quotes, they borrow the exact verbiage from other churches. And not only is that dishonest, but it does you and your website visitors a disservice. And it's certainly okay to be inspired by how a church writes its core values and maybe glean some ideas on how to structure things, or even some ideas from the core values themselves. But it's another thing to copy and paste them directly into your website. Plus, it's a bit ironic to take somebody's core values and use them yourself. So take a little bit extra time and write your own content. Your website will be better for it. And really, the bottom line is to be inspired, but don't copy word for word. Okay, focal point number 2 is to make your first impression count. What you want to do is choose a design, choose graphics, choose verbiage that accurately represents who your church is. And make sure, I touched on this earlier, but make sure the church experience or the website experience that you create is reinforced when they visit in person. And so if you're a church plant, that is awesome, and you need to own that. And if you're a large 150-year-old church, that's great, own that as well. So just be yourself, or let the church be itself, and try to create a connection between your website and the church service. So when they show up in person, they'll say, yeah, this is what I was expecting. It's not there's not a disconnect between the two. And in regards to first impressions, there are a ton of really high quality stock photo sites out there. And I'm going to list a few of those later. And those are great for sermon series graphics and, maybe a bumper video, header graphics, ministry graphics, things like that. But when it comes to stock photos of people, we recommend that if you can, to use pictures of real people that are involved in attending your church. Because you can pick out a stock photo of a person a mile away, and using photos of your people will make the site experience more authentic and less, I guess, salesy, if you could say. So just put people up there. People love being online, stuff like that. Do be careful. You don't probably want to put you definitely don't want to put any minors online without written permission from their parents or guardians. So just be careful with that. So let's jump over to the next one. Focal point number 3 is to be nice to phones and tablets. And this is namely to be mobile friendly. And at least 2/3 of your site traffic is going to come from a mobile device. And some reports have that much higher, even 70 to 80%. So a mobile device defined here is a tablet or a phone. And so what this means is that your site must be optimized for these small screens. And you can run a quick test to see how mobile friendly your site is. Google does have a mobile test, online test that you can run, and the test will notify you of any issues that you can either fix yourself or pass along to your website provider to address. And I will put that link in the notes so you guys can have that. It's a nice long Google link that's about 100 characters long. So we'll provide that, and you guys, I definitely recommend that you check that out. And I was testing some of our sites, and they're anywhere between 1 and 3 seconds typically on load time, and then also on being mobile friendly. So focal point number 4 is to ensure that your website loads quickly. And I touched on this just now, but speed really is the key word here. It was a report from KISS Metrics a little while ago that said 47% of people expect a website to load in less than 2 seconds. Now, back in the day, 10, 15 years ago, 8 seconds was kind of the rule of thumb. But now with the proliferation of broadband and the declining attention spans of people, myself included, people expect your site to load in less than 2 seconds. That's 47%. And then 40% of people will abandon a website that takes more than 3 seconds to load. And so you'll see over there in the yellow, our little guy is running away. That's about the point. About half the people will leave if your site hasn't loaded. And so you want to keep your load time in the 2 to 3 second range. Anything more than that, and you need to do some compression. So how do you ensure that your website is fast and loads within that 2 to 3 second or less range? There's a few things you can do. When creating your images, be sure to choose the best format for each image. There are multiple formats that you can put on your website. The big three are PNG, PNG, GIF, GIF, and JPEG, JPEG. And there's a couple of other formats as well, but they're not supported in all browsers. And so the three I just mentioned are the safe ones. And again, I'll include this information in the notes. But what you can do is you can choose based on the type of image you're loading on your website. Some images will be better served as a ping, some images will be better served as a GIF, and others will be better served as a JPEG. And if you use a JPEG, be sure to compress those images. JPEG offers great built-in compression. And so when you're exporting those images from, let's say, Photoshop or another photo editor, be sure to compress those down. Probably, I would say, start around 60 to 65% compression. And that is going to cut out the vast majority of the bulk of the file size, and it will not result in any noticeable loss of quality. So again, if you use JPEGs, compression will be your best friend. There's a couple of really good online editors, photo editors that are free. Photoshop has one, and Pixlr has one as well, and I'll send those over in the notes later. You can also cache your site resources. That's the third bullet point there. Google also offers a link to evaluate your site, and they will tell you if anything needs to be compressed or cached. And cached just basically means you're setting that file to be remembered and not pulled down every single time the website loads. And that can dramatically improve your load time. Now, that is a fairly technical step, and so it'll probably need to be done by your web development company. That's something that we would take care of for our churches. And if you have a website with another company, I recommend that you run this test. And then if there's any caching needed, run that by them, and they should be able to set that up for you. You can also test your site speed, your load time, by going to Pingdom, PINGDOM.com. And like I mentioned earlier, anything under about 2 to 3 seconds is acceptable. And I'll put that link in the notes as well. Okay, focal point number 5 is to ensure that your website is secure. And a website that is secure will be protected from tampering by intruders. And you can tell if your website is secure by looking in the address bar. If you see the letters HTTPS, then it is secure. If you see HTTP without the S, then that means it's not secure. So the inclusion of the S, the letter S, means that it is secure. And in some browsers, you'll have a little green strip or green text at the top denoting that it is secure. So having a secure site is definitely going to be in the best interest of your site visitors, since their use of your site will be encrypted. And what that does for them is it prevents unauthorized monitoring by both legitimate companies such as hotels or ISPs, particularly with hotels when they like to put those little landing pages in before you access their content. They can monitor what is going through their connection. And so encrypting your website will prevent that. And also having a secure site will prevent the monitoring or misuse of your site by hackers. So they won't be able to load content on your site and inject it into the user's browser. So there are definite safety benefits for your end users. Now, there's also benefits to you as well as the church, or you as the church. There are search engine benefits, search engine optimization benefits to having a secure certificate running on your site. And if you've created your own site, then what you can do in order to get that secure hosting is to contact your hosting provider and ask them to enable it. And if you use a church website company like us or any other company that provides websites, then contact them, and most will provide that level of security free of charge. And we're actually in the process of rolling that out to all of our churches at no charge. So one thing I do need to make sure everybody's aware of is that you want to enable this HTTPS, the secure function on your website, by July of this year, July of 2018, because the Google Chrome browser, which a good majority of internet users use, they will begin marking all insecure sites as not secure in the browser bar. And that starts in July. And so that is going to affect your search engine ranking, and it will also result in a lower level of trust with your site visitors. So there's a ton of information on this online. Some is pretty high level, kind of the why and basic overviews on how to do it. And then it does get pretty detailed on how to actually enable this. So if it's something you feel comfortable doing, you can do it yourself. Or honestly, if you work with a company, just call them up and have them do it for you. And again, if you have a site with us, then we'll be upgrading you at no charge over the next couple of weeks. And I will be sending that link to the HTTPS kind of walkthrough and instructions that'll be in the notes as well. So a few other helpful resources. This is kind of a hodgepodge collection of random information. It's just really nice to know stuff that we found out over the years, stuff that many of our churches do. So I'm going to give you some of these. So filming a welcome video, that historically has been kind of a nightmare for a lot of churches because you'd have to hire a video guy and you'd have to, budget a few $1,000s possibly to take, maybe 2 or 3 days of his time to get in to do production and then also to do post-production. But thankfully with technology and iPhones and cheap lighting kits, there's tons of resources online that'll walk you through how to do this yourself. There's a great walkthrough and tutorial at Wistia, WISTIA. They have a library there with a bunch of tutorials, and it'll walk you through everything from how to record your voice to how to select a background, how to do music, bumps, how to script out your content, lighting, shadows, all that kind of stuff. And it really, if you put a little time into it, it's really not too hard. It just takes a little bit of elbow grease, and you can save yourself a lot of money. So we definitely recommend that if you are on a budget. I did mention a couple of stock photo resources earlier, or mentioned that there are some good resources out there. 2 of them are Creation Swap and Lightstock. And again, they're great high quality photos. Again, we do recommend that you avoid stock photos of people, but all the other stuff is just absolutely terrific. We have written an SEO or a search engine optimization article that we give out to our churches, and I'll be including that link in the notes as well, so you can read through that. It's about probably 2 to 3 pages long, and we'll walk you through some specific steps you can take to improve your listing online. We do integrate with Church Community Builder. Any church who uses both CCB and Church Plant Media will be able to pull in events and small group information into their website. This avoids double data entry and allows site visitors to quickly find a small group or event. And we'll discuss this here in just a little bit, but we are going to bundle that at no charge for Converge churches. And there are some companies that also partner with CCB. We are actually in the process of becoming their preferred service provider for for church websites. So we love CCB. It's a great system, and we have integrated it many, many times. Online giving, there's a great company out there called Simple Donation, simpledonation.com. As the founder of Church Plant Media, I've been approached many times over the years to buy online giving companies to integrate with us. And I never felt comfortable partnering up with any company until I met Simple Donation. They offer a terrific service, unlimited funds like tithe, missions, youth, general, etc. One-time in recurring giving. You can do text giving, Church Community Builder, Fellowship One integration, donor statements, all that fun stuff. They do offer discounts to Church Plant Media partners, so be sure if you do sign up, be sure to mention us, and they'll get you some special pricing. This is kind of an offline marketing trick that I think is great, and I've done something like this for myself. I'm a lay leader at our church, and I do something kind of like this. But we recommend that as pastors and staffers and even lay leaders that you carry some sort of connection card with you at all times, something the size of a business card that includes your church name, something real simple, your church name, your name, and the church's website. So the next time you're meeting somebody at Starbucks or you run into somebody, you're telling them about Jesus, you're telling them about church, you can give them a card, and it has a call to action, and that's to visit the site for more info. And then you tailor your website to be able to answer the questions and help out that person that's going to be coming looking for more information. And it doesn't have to be something traditionally sized like a business card. Companies like Overnight Prints have really creative sizes, circle sizes, oval sizes, things like that. So it doesn't have to look like a business card. But that's just a quick kind of offline way that you can drive people to your site and also help. Obviously, the first goal is to spread the gospel. And so if somebody's looking for it, to be able to communicate that to them and tell them where they can learn more. Another free option is to monitor your website traffic by signing up for a free Google Analytics account. That is totally free, and using that, you'll be able to see what pages people are visiting, how long they stay on their pages, the paths they take through your site, keywords they're using to find your site through Google, etc. And so what you can do is you can use those insights to customize your content and tailor your website to meet those ongoing needs. And I'll include the link to sign up in the notes as well. We also have some really great examples of how to present the gospel online. This is something I'm really excited about. And there are different ways to do it. Some are video driven, some are text driven, some are a combination of both. But we have some good examples that we will send you in the notes. We also have some great examples from churches, some of our churches that have structured and created really good before you visit sections on their website, kind of those visitor sections. So we'll email those to you as well, and you'll be able to use those and kind of get some ideas on how you can structure that content. Because a lot of times, I don't know about you guys, but when I'm trying to create something, sometimes you just need to see somebody doing something relatively similar, and it'll spur your own creativity. And so those links I think will be very helpful. And we have seen many gospel presentations online, and we've seen many visitor sections online. Some are great, some are not so great, but these are some really good ones. So we will email those to you. All right, Lee, I'm going to turn it over to you. I think the next step is you may be discussing the partnership and maybe doing a Q&A.
Yeah, no, Dustin, I appreciate it. Very great information to help people just think through their web presence. So thank you very much. And we're very excited to let everybody know as you're beginning to submit your questions in the Q&A box. I want to talk just briefly a little bit about our Church Plant Media and Converge partnership. Church Plant Media is offered very generously to be able to partner with all of our Converge churches, not just church plants, but existing churches as well when it comes to web design and web hosting, basically at 50% off of the initial setup cost, and then an ongoing $50 a month. And with that comes free integration if you partner with one of our other strategic partners with Church Community Builder. A couple places that you can go to get next steps. You can go to converge.churchplantmedia.com there at the bottom of the page, or you can go directly to the converge.org website, click on the resource page, and scroll down, then you'll see Church Plant Media and our partnership explained there as well. So thanks again so much, Dustin. Let's kind of turn over at this point to talking a little bit through some of the questions that people have. So first question. Some church websites have sweet looking videos on their homepage. They look pretty slick. What are the disadvantages of this approach as opposed to photos or graphics?
You know, I think the main disadvantage is if you don't compress the video. I like to use examples because we can all learn from it. We have run across churches that they'll load a 200 megabyte video in the header, and that's a massive file. And really, you can get great bump footage at those two stock photo resources I mentioned earlier, and just make sure that you compress the video. If you compress it down, our system is set to loop that video, and so what we tell people is make it about 20 seconds long, and you can actually compress that down to around 10 meg or so and still have pretty good quality. Now, you don't want to want to have that show on the mobile devices because it can, for older devices, it can actually tank the performance. But for your websites, that appear on the desktop, our system is set to display that video automatically. And then if you choose to do so, and then on the mobile device, you will have a backup image that will actually show, that will load up much more quickly over a data connection. So video is great as long as it is compressed and it doesn't go on forever and ever. So compression is the key here. I know I keep harping on that, but that is, so many churches can improve their performance if they would compress the content.
Great. Excellent. Thank you. When it comes to sermon hosting, some people had some questions about what are preferred go-tos when it comes to just sermon hosting on your website.
Mm-hmm. For video, we love recommending Vimeo, Vimeo.com. YouTube, a lot of churches will do YouTube as well, but there's a lot of junk on YouTube, and there's not that kind of garbage typically on Vimeo. Vimeo is more of a place for creatives to upload their videos, and so we have a Vimeo account. I know Converge does. I know a lot of churches do. So that seems to be kind of the place to host video online for a lot of our churches, and we love it. We've used them forever. Well, not forever, but for many, many years. And they actually have a free plan that you can get started on. It will limit your bandwidth and the number of plays, but it's a great way to step in and get your feet wet. So for Vimeo or for video, I would recommend Vimeo. For audio files, usually those are going to be MP3 files. Sometimes there's a couple of other different formats, but MP3 is kind of the standard bearer right now that has mass adoption and has for quite some time. Most of the time, you can just upload that to your website. If you're using a company that specializes in church websites like us, or there's many others out there, most of those companies will have a sermons module where you can actually upload the audio, link to your Vimeo video, and then it publishes it to the site automatically. If you have created your website yourself, and let's say you're hosting it at Bluehost or HostGator, maybe it's just something that was built in-house, that's something you can typically just upload to your own hosting account. And if you're the person that built the site, then you'll have access to do that. If not, then you would probably just want to contact the person that set the site up for you. But there's so many companies out there that specialize in church websites. With our system, you go in, you upload your MP3, you can upload your video or link to Vimeo or YouTube if you wish, and then upload your sermon notes, and everything's automatically is out. It is displayed and kind of outputted right there on the screen, where you can do the sorting, and all the formatting is handled for you. The scripture references are linked up automatically to an online or an inline scripture viewer. But yeah, so audio, I'd say hosted on your website. Video, I would definitely recommend Vimeo, Vimeo.com.
Great. When it comes to Vimeo, Dustin, do they usually offer free streaming and archiving with that?
They do. Now, I know with a lot of streaming, a lot of people are using Facebook for streaming, but there's a good percentage of the population that is either not on Facebook or has rejected Facebook. They're tired of the intrusion, and they have other philosophical reasons against it. So if you do live stream on Facebook, make sure you have another option for non-Facebook users. There are some companies out there that can do that. I'm pretty sure you can live stream through Vimeo, and then yes, you can archive all of those videos as well. And the great thing about using a system like Vimeo is all of those videos will be accessible later on. And again, you can link those to your website and have cross-linking and cross-referencing and all of that.
Excellent. How tech savvy does somebody have to be able to update new information with a Church Plant Media website?
Not tech savvy at all. We've built our system to try to be as easy as possible. We've said many times, if you can check your email, if you can, jump on the internet and click around and do things, write a Word document or a Pages document, then you'll be able to update your website. A lot of our system is wizard based, and so when you go into the system, it's not a free form, kind of a free for all, where you have to figure out where things go. We've got very distinct modules. So we have a sermons module, we have a blog post module, we have event calendaring, pages, all of those. And so, for example, to add a sermon, you click the Add Sermon button, and then you just fill out the fields. So you type in the sermon title, you select the scripture references, you assign the speaker to it, the series, the category, the tags, you link up your media, and then you click publish. And a lot of it is just kind of a click and select kind of thing. There's not it's not an open-ended deal where you have to figure out how to format it. We take care of all that for you. All of our websites have our advanced sermon sorting module. You can see those by demoing one of our sites online. And yeah, we take care of that. We take care of trying to make the system as easy as possible by making it wizard-based, so you're not having to figure out where stuff goes.
Excellent. Talk a little bit about pros and cons to putting the entire staff bios and pictures on the website as opposed to just the pastoral team.
Yeah, I think, and that may be just a shortcoming of my presentation on that part. I think it's definitely good to have staffers online as well. Typically when somebody, from the front each week, you're going to have the pastor, you're going to have the worship pastor, maybe a connections pastor, somebody like that. And so those will not always be staffers, but most of the time they'll be pastors. And so I would say put them on there as a minimum or at a minimum, and then, put staffers on there as well. I think that's a good idea. I think full bios are beneficial because it allows people to see and get to know the staff or get to know the pastor. One thing I would recommend doing is, and I alluded to this earlier, but and this is a personal preference. Some pastors and staffers do this and they're okay with it, but I personally would not put my minor children online. I certainly would not put their names online, and I would not put a picture of them online. So if I'm a pastor at my church and I'm creating my bio, I'll have a picture of my wife, me, and then my bio, and I'll reference my children. I'll say, Dustin and his wife Laura enjoy spending time with their 2 children, something like that, because all it takes is one wacko out there to get upset with your church for some reason and decide to do something that would be regrettable. So, bios are good. Go into deep detail on the pastors and staffers, but just be real careful and real thoughtful when talking about family.
Great. One more question here. It says, our leaders want a place for members to come to for certain information, perhaps a directory, business meeting minutes, etc. Is this something that should be posted somewhere on the website, Facebook, or is there another option?
There's a couple of different options you can do. You can create a private Facebook group if you'd like. That's something, I'm actually a member of a private Facebook group with some of my son's fathers, and we talk about the ups and the downs of raising teenagers, raising 12-year-old boys. So that is very effective because it's just private to the 5 of us, and we can get on there. We can share content, video, all those kinds of things. That is helpful. Another option is to put it behind a password protected section on your website. This is something that we offer. It's included in all packages. You would just create a page, put your content on it, and then password protect that page, and then just give that password to the handful of people that need it. So it depends. It depends. Is it a small group? Is it a large group? If it's something that needs where you're discussing very sensitive things, maybe staffing issues, things like that, that probably needs to be done through an internal system, maybe like CCB, where you can have some private grouping. Facebook, I would tend to stay away from that for that, just because of the monitoring, the security issues with Facebook knowing everything. Website, putting that information behind a password on your website is good. It'll keep out the majority of people, but if somebody is dedicated to getting information, there's typically they'll stop at nothing to get it. So you just want to make sure that you're smart with where you put that information. And if it is online, it can, if it's not password protected, it can be easily found on Google. So be careful with that. We've had clients or churches who've contacted us, and they posted information on a missionary in a hostile country and accidentally posted it on the website, and Google picked it up. And so we had to, wipe it out, and then we had to go into Google and request, or go into the tools webmaster tools and request that they de-index that page. So just be smart with the information that you share online. And if it's very sensitive, then you would probably want to move to some sort of internal communication system like Church Community Builder.
Great. And last question for our time. When it comes to above the fold on the homepage, what would you say, Dustin, is the most important content to have there?
I've got a couple of examples on the screen right there, and a lot of it is personal preference. Some people like just everything right there above the fold with no scrolling. Other people like more of the I don't want to say the infinite scroll, but where you just keep going down and down and down. Obviously, I would say make it easy for people to contact you. So you can put your contact information up there. You want to have a search icon. So you'll notice on both of these examples, there's a little magnifying glass that is, it's quickly accessible. That's kind of a key place up in the header for people to search for information on the website. The top example there, the Hopetown Bible Church example, has a new button at the top left. That's very helpful. We don't do that on all of our sites, but this particular one does have it, and I think it's beneficial because as a visitor, you're coming and you see that and you say, boom, that's what I need to know. If I'm new, this is where I'm going to go, and then that's where you break down all of that visitor information. So I think kind of setting the tone for the church and the website right there from the beginning above the fold is important. So, for example, if you look at these two screenshots, we've got both of the slogans right there above the fold. So the first one says "Life in Christ Together," and then there's a subtitle, and then the second one says "We live out the gospel," and then it goes directly into mission and values and what to expect. What you don't want to do is just put a ton of stuff up there, but you also don't want to have it too sparse. There's definitely a balancing act. So I think these are two fairly good examples. But again, a lot of it comes down to personal preference, but I would say two things at a minimum, search, or three things at a minimum: search, contact information, and then maybe a quick line of text to grab them and communicate, okay, here's who we are as a church. This is what we live for. We live for Christ, and how that plays out, the actual verbiage you use is up to you. But I think knocking that out at the very beginning is imperative.
Great. I lied. I'm going to ask one more question. So,
okay.
What are the things that you would say are most important to create a great first impression?
Great first impression. I would say a welcome video from the pastor will go a very, very long way. My church does it. Countless churches do it. And what that does is it just immediately softens, or kind of answers some of the questions as they come in. They're like, okay, this is the pastor. Here is I can see his heart. I can look into his eyes, look into her eyes, and see, okay, this is what this church stands for. And I can tell that, hey, they want me to visit on Sunday or Saturday. So I think a welcome video is a key to making people feel welcome, and really just making content that answers their questions. That is the key. But I would say, if you can, and again, I'll send you some of those low-cost resources to film videos. But that is going to go a long way to getting people in the door and sharing that vision from the top down, from the pastor down.
Great. Thanks so much, Dustin. I appreciate your time and walking us through the conversation today. I just want to remind everybody that tuned in that we'll be sending out a link with all the information that was talked about today, and the audio file to be able to visit and go back through the presentation. I want to remind you too, the partnership now that we have with Church Plant Media and all of our Converge churches. You can be hard pressed to find this kind of quality at this kind of price out there when it comes to web development. And then lastly, I just want to encourage you, if you're constantly looking for more resources, we're going to be pumping them out here at Converge Church Planning. We try to do a webinar at least every quarter, and then we now have the Unfiltered podcast that is now released and on iTunes, where it's real conversations about church planning. In other words, it's not the how-tos. It's more about the in-betweens. And if you're new to church planning, you're looking at church planning, maybe you coach church planners, let me invite you to come to our next Church Planning 101, which will be May 3rd and 4th, and that'll be in Hudson, Wisconsin. You can find the information about that at converge.org. Just click on the Church Planning 101 link on the left side of the page. Thanks again for joining us, Dustin. Thanks again for your time, and go make a difference. Build the kingdom, guys.
Thank you, Lee. I appreciate your time. Thank you, everybody.